So what's going on guys, Kid is here and welcome back to a brand new video. For today I will show you the top 3 best blunderbuss builds in a new world. So for each and every single build I will explain what attributes, weapon masteries and even weapon and gear perks you want to have. Then what gems and specific gear you want to use to get out your stats as much damage as possible. Then as well I will show you the best gameplay of me using different weapons, so you would know which abilities you want to use first on your enemies and much more. So if this sounds interesting to you, then let's get right into it. So then moving over to the first build, which is the one and only Blunderbuss and Hatchet. And these are the attributes you want to have. So no matter from which level you start using this build, you first of all want to get your strength to 150, and then get 50 points in constitution, and then continue putting everything else in dexterity and strength. And then around level 60 and 600 item score gear, you should get around 300 strength, 50 dexterity and 100 constitution. And lastly, for your gear, you want to go with the heavy category, and this of course means using every single heavy equipment. So then taking a closer look at the first weapon, which is the Blunderbuss, and these are the weapon masteries you want to have. So first things first, you want to select the first ability called the Azot Shrapnel Blast, and then get these 2 perks. Then now let's go over to the right side and unlock the last 2 abilities called the Splitting Grenade and Mortar Charge, and then select these 6 perks, and that's it. Now from this moment and onwards, you can select your points in whatever order you want. So then moving over to the second weapon, which is the Hatchet, and these are the weapon masteries you want to have. So first of all, you want to unlock the first ability called the Berserk, and then get these 2 perks. Then now we want to unlock both these 2 abilities called the Feral Rush and Raging Torrent, and then get these 4 perks, and that's it. Now again from this point, you can spend your points in whatever way you prefer. Okay, so now let's go over to the gameplay where I'll show you the best way to play this build. And for the first weapon we have the Blunderbuss, and the first Q spell is called the Azot Shrapnel Blast, which will fire a single grenade that will stick to the enemy and explode in 3-meter range, and this will do massive amounts of damage. Then for the second skill we have the Splitting Grenade, which will shoot a grenade that can bounce up to 4 times, each time inflicting burn damage and then exploding in 3-meter range. And then lastly we have the Mortar Charge, which will load your weapon with a heavy canister that for the next 3 shots no longer will fire a ballistic bullet, but instead will fire a canister that will cause multiple explosions. And then for the second weapon we have the Hatchet, and your first Q spell is called the Berserk, which after activating will make you enter the Berserk mode, which will give you speed, self-healing and attack damage increase. Then for the second ability we have the Feral Rush, which will make your character leap forwards and strike twice, that will root the enemies in front of you. And then lastly we have the Raging Torrent skill, which will perform 4 fast attacks, each one dealing damage and increasing your movement speed by 20%. Okay, so then let's move over to the rotation, and no matter if you're farming mobs in PvE or doing PvP, the same principle and rules apply. So at the beginning of the fight we want to start with the Blunderbuss and use the Splitting Grenade to apply the burn dot on the enemy. Then now we use the Mortar Charge for the area damage. Then afterwards we want to switch to the Hatchet and activate the Berserk mode, and then use Feral Rush and Raging Torrent. And then from here we keep on using auto attacks till the enemy is low HP. And then lastly we switch back to the Blunderbuss and use the Azot Shrapnel Blast to finish off the enemy. So now for my last and final conclusions for this build. This Blunderbuss and Hatchet weapon combination right now is one of the best builds in New World. This build will give you high tankiness, while at the same time giving you massive amounts of damage. So then last but not the least, for the Blunderbuss and Hatchet you want to use the Opal gems, and then for all of your gear use 3 Malachite and 2 Onyx gems. And then on your character you want to equip the Heart Rune of Detonate. And then on top of all this, to find out the best weapon and gear perks, watch this video, which is titled "Which weapon and gear perks are the best for your build?" You can find the link in this video's description or just scroll through my channel. And in that video I will specifically explain how perks work and which ones are the best for your gear and weapons and much more. So in a quick summary, if you're looking to do high damage or you just want to use one of the best Blunderbuss builds, then for sure try this one out and have fun. So then moving over to the second build, which is a very strong PvP setup in this current meta, and for the weapons we want to use the Blunderbuss and Fire Staff, and these are the attributes you want to have. So first things first, if you start from level 0 you want to get your intelligence to 200, and then start building your constitution, and around level 60 you should have 350 intelligence and 100 constitution. And lastly for your gear you want to go with the light category, which means using 1 medium chest piece and then the rest light equipment. So then taking a closer look at the first weapon, which is the Blunderbuss, and these are the weapon masteries you want to have. So first of all, you want to unlock the first ability called the Azot Shrapnel Blast and then get these 3 perks. Then now we take a closer look at the other side and unlock the second ability called the Splitting Grenade and then get these 2 perks. And then lastly unlock the last final ability called the Blast Shot and then get these 2 perks. And now from this moment and onwards, you can spend your points in whatever order you want. Okay, and now let's move over to the second weapon, which is the Fire Staff. And these are the weapon masteries you want to have. So first things first, you want to unlock the first ability called the Pillar of Fire and then get this 1 perk. Then now let's go to the second ability called the Fireball and then get these 2 perks. And now let's move over to the right side and unlock this 1 perk. And then the last final ability called the Incinerate and then get these 5 perks, and that's it. Now again, you can use your points in whatever way you like. Okay, so now let's go over to the gameplay where I will show you the best way to play this build. And for the first weapon, we have the Blunderbuss, and the first Q spell is called the Azot Shrapnel, which will fire a single grenade that will stick to the enemy and explode in 3-meter range and do massive amounts of damage. Then for the second skill, we have the Splitting Grenade, which will shoot a grenade that can bounce up to 4 times, each time inflicting burn damage and then exploding in 3-meter range. And then lastly, we have the Blast Shot, that will shoot a blast that will knock the enemies in front of you and give you and your allies 25% movement speed. And then for the second weapon, we have the Fire Staff, and your Q spell is called the Pillar of Fire, which will shoot this burst of flames in 2-meter radius, but it will lock you in a casting animation for 2 seconds. Then the next ability is called the Fireball, which will shoot this fireball that will deal damage and burn the enemies in 3-meter range. And then lastly, we have the Incinerate, that will create a fiery explosion around you, which will deal damage to the enemies and push them back. Okay, so now let's move over to the rotation, and no matter if you're farming mobs in PvE or doing PvP, the same principle and rules apply. So first of all, you want to start the fight with the Blunderbuss Blast Shot, then use the Splitting Grenade, and for this ability to detonate faster, remember to double tap the skill button. Then from now, keep on using auto attacks, and to finish off weak enemies or mobs, use the Azot Shrapnel Blast. Or then, if you are fighting against a boss, a strong player, or bunch of mob groups, then now we switch to the Fire Staff and use the Fireball, then Pillar of Fire, then Incinerate, and then we finish off the enemy with auto attacks. And then lastly, don't forget to use the Blast Shot as soon as it comes off cooldown, because it applies the rend to the enemies. So now for my last and final conclusions for this build. This Blunderbuss and Fire Staff weapon combination is the current highest DPS build in New World, and this build will not only give you very high damage, but as well you will be able to fight off bruiser enemies because of your Blunderbuss abilities. So then last but not the least, for both weapons you want to use the Sapphire Gem, and then for all of your gear use 3 Malachite and 2 Onyx Gems, and then on your character you want to equip the Heart Rune of Detonate. And then on top of all this, to find out the best weapon and gear perks, watch this video, which is titled "Which weapon and gear perks are the best for your build?" You can just find the link in this video's description or just scroll through my channel. So in a quick summary, if you are looking for the most fun and the best PvP build in New World, then this is the one for you, so enjoy! And then moving over to my last and final build, which is the Hammer and Blunderbuss, and these are the attributes you want to have. So then, no matter from which level you start using this build, you first of all want to get your strength to 100 or even 150, and then start building your constitution. And around level 60 you should have 300 strength and 150 constitution. But if you are a super hardcore player with 600 item score gear, then you're feel free to go with 50 more constitution by using the food and full endgame gear. And then last but not the least, for your armor, you want to go with the medium category, and the best setup is to have heavy helmet, heavy chest armor, medium gloves, light pants, and medium boots. So then for the first weapon, we have the Warhammer, and these are the weapon masteries you want to have. So first of all, you want to unlock this 1 perk, and then the first ability called the Shockwave, and then get these 2 perks. Then afterwards get the second ability called the Path of Destiny, and then get these 2 perks. Then from here, let's move over to the other side and unlock both these 2 perks, and then lastly get the last third ability called the Breaking Ball, and then get these 3 perks, and that's it. Now from this moment, you can spend your points in whatever way you like. So then moving over to the second weapon, which is the Blunderbuss, and these are the weapon masteries you want to have. So first things first, you want to unlock both these 2 abilities called the Azot Shrapnel Blast and Claw Shot, and then get these 4 perks. Then from here, let's move over to the other side and unlock the last third ability called the Splitting Grenade, and then get these 5 perks, and that's it. Now again, from this point and onwards, you're free to use your points in whatever order you want. So then let's move over to the gameplay where I'll show you the best way to play this build. So for the first weapon we have the Warhammer, and the first Q spell is called the Shockwave, and when using this spell it will give us the ability to slam down the hammer and create a smaller earthquake, and all players standing in it will get stunned for 2 seconds. Then for the second ability we have the R skill called the Path of Destiny, which will create a huge electric wave, and all enemies standing in this path will be taking bunch of damage. And then lastly we have the F ability called the Wrecking Ball, which when using will strike the ground with your warhammer, dealing additional damage and flattening your target. So then going over to the second weapon, which is the Blunderbuss, and as I already covered this weapon twice, so we will just take a closer look at the last skill, which is called the Claw Shot. And this will shoot forward this harpoon, dealing damage, then rooting the enemy in front of you, and then lastly you will automatically get pulled closer to the enemy. Okay, so then let's take a closer look at your best skill rotation that works both for PvP and PvE. So then the way you want to attack an enemy is by first of all using your warhammer, and then use your shockwave and then Wrecking Ball, and this will stun and flatten your target. Then from here switch back to the Blunderbuss and shoot the splitting grenade, then the Claw Shot, and then the finish off with the Shrapnel Blast. This combo should one-shot the enemy, but if the target just has still a little bit of health, then switch back to the warhammer and finish him off with your Path of Destiny. So now for my last and final conclusions for this build. This warhammer and blunderbuss weapon combination is very good because you can survive for very long, while at the same time being very mobile by using the medium gear, and then as well being able to do massive amounts of close range damage. So then last but not the least, for your warhammer and blunderbuss for PvP and PvE, you want to use the opal gem. And then for all of your gear, get 3 malachite and 2 onyx gems. And then on your character, you want to equip the heart rune of detonate. And then on top of all this, to find out the best weapon and gear perks, watch this video, in which I will explain in depth which weapon and gear perks are the best for your build. And you can find the link in this video description or just scroll through my channel. So in a quick summary, if you're looking for the best blunderbuss build that you will be able to use for crazy damage, then this is the one for you, so enjoy! And that's about it. So I really do appreciate everyone for watching, guys, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any suggestions, feedback, or other good new world builds that you would like to see in the next video, then feel free to leave your comments in the comment section down below. And while you're doing that, please click like, subscribe, and enable that notification bell, so this way you could support the channel and you won't miss any more amazing content from me. With all this said, you have an amazing day and I will see you in my next video. So take it easy, peace.